Okay, welcome to the afternoon session. Some of you are returning, some of you are new. Just a reminder to everybody, please leave your microphones off for the duration of the talk and use them only when you have questions. We also have breakout rooms in case anybody wants to get together with other people in the conference. You can just go ahead and move over there to chat if you want at any time. Our first talk for the afternoon is by Yuta Tatsumi of Keio University. It's on negative polarity and the silent much in degree demonstratives.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is a hybrid presentation online and in person. So I found the camera there. So just in case, this is my face, Yuta Tatsumi. Okay, so today I'd like to talk about the degree demonstratives and the demonstrative understaters. So please look at the example in one. So here we have the sentence like, I don't know that much about it. And here, the demonstrative that functions as an understater. And so, and in Japanese, we also have a similar expression, so which is given in 2AB, especially the 2B. So the 2A is the sentence, the affirmative sentence, and the 2B, 2A is affirmative and 2B is a negative version. And so let's look at the 2B first. So 言語学はそんなに難しくない。Linguistics is not that hard. So here we have the demonstrative so, that, and the particle na and ni. So そんなに function as the demonstrative understaters, just like English that. And the contrast in 2 shows that this degree demonstrative phrase, そんなに behaves like negative polarity items. So it cannot be licensed in the affirmative sentence as shown in 2A. And today's, so this is today's main topic. And so let's move on to the section 2. Yes. And so one of the very interesting property of this degree demonstrative is its licensing environment. So as shown in 3 ABC, the degree demonstrative can be licensed in question. The numbering is wrong, sorry, it's not 16, it should be the 3A. So this demonstrative understater can be licensed in questions and conditional antecedent and before clauses. So 3A, B, C. So in 3B, for example, we have the nara conditional. So we have the conditional antecedents with nara. 言語学がそんなに難しいなら、数学を勉強するよ。If linguistics is that hard, I will study math. So this sentence is okay, which means the degree demonstrative, the demonstrative understater can be licensed in this conditional antecedent. And basically 3C, oh, sorry, this one also shows a similar thing. So the そんなに can be licensed in the before clause in Japanese. So we have 前 before in 3C. So そんなに悩む前に、彼に相談するべきだ。And this is again okay. So the そんなに is licensed in the before clause. And interestingly, the many other NPI-like expressions in Japanese, such as 少しも and something しか and ろくな and indeterminate pronouns and minimizer expressions with numeral 1 and other things. So those NPI-like expressions are not licensed in the same environments. So here in the handout, I put the example of 少しも as an illustration. So please look at the 4AB. So again, so we have affirmative sentence and negative sentence. And 4B says, 言語学は少しも難しくない。So this is fine. And which means linguistics is not hard at all. So the contrast in 4 shows that this skoshimo is an NPI expression, and NPI. And then let's look at the example in 5. So 5a is question. 5b is the example of the conditional antecedents. The skoshimo in the conditional antecedent. And 5c is the before clause. And so all of them just simply ungrammatical and unacceptable. So you guys can compare the example in 3 with the ones in 5. So the question is, why is the behavior of the degree demonstrative different from that of other NP-like expressions in this respect? In this licensing environments. So that's the first question I'm gonna think about. And so this is a semantic part, and this degree demonstrative also has very interesting property regarding its morphosyntax and a morphosyntactic property. So as I said, in Japanese, the demonstrative understater has the particle na and ni. And these particle, the suffix, has some special property. So which is summarized in 6 on the next page. So please look at the 6 on the top of the next page. So basic patterns of the suffix na and ni. So when something is followed by the suffix na, that expression functions as a prenominal modifier. So with na, the element is the element modifies the noun phrase, basically. And on the other hand, when x is followed by the particle, the suffix ni, it functions as an adverbial phrase. So let's look at the specific example here. So the 7a. So here we're gonna use the tokubetsu special as x. And in 7a, the tokubetsu special is followed by the particle ni and tokubetsu ni furui kuruma. And in this case, tokubetsu ni is interpreted as the adverbial phrase which modifies adjectival predicate furui. So the translation is an especially old car. And with this suffix ni, it is impossible for this tokubetsu phrase to modify the noun phrase. So that's the unacceptability of the 7b. So here, tokubetsu ni just tries to modify the noun phrase car, but it's impossible. So 7a, b shows that the particle ni must be used for the adverbial phrase in Japanese. And in a similar way, let's look at the example in 8. So here we have tokubetsu with the suffix na instead of ni, and tokubetsu na furui kuruma. So this is 8a, and this is fine. So here tokubetsu na is interpreted as the simple adjective, which means special. So the tokubetsu na furui kuruma means a special vintage car, the special old car. And importantly, so here the tokubetsu na functions as the modifier of the noun phrase. So in Japanese, in the prenominal field, the modifiers, the order of the modifiers can be changed, right? So in AB, I just switched the order between the old and the special, and that's fine. And this shows that this tokubetsu na particle, the tokubetsu na expression, function as the prenominal modifier. And what is important here is this. So as shown in 9, the suffix na and the suffix ni cannot co-occur with each other in a single sentence. So that's the reason why we have the unacceptability of 9 here. So the na and ni simply just cannot co-occur, and order is irrelevant here. So we cannot say tokubetsu ni na furui kuruma. That's also bad. So when we go back to the original demonstrative understated expressions, as you can see, we have the sequence of na and ni, right? So when we think about the morphological morphosyntactic property of these suffixes, the sequence of the na and ni is very interesting, right? So we have to explain why we have this sequence in this understated expression. So that's the second question. So this is a basic property of the demonstrative understated. And so, okay, 9 minutes, good. And then, so, yeah, when I found this expression, I got excited because as you can see in the previous section, the demonstrative understated has very interesting distribution. Regarding the licensing context, and I got excited. Okay, so I should share this expression with the other people, and I just thought this is my finding, but it's not true. So the research is not that easy, right? So always so I sent this abstract to some conferences, including this talk 2022, and some reviewers pointed out that you overlooked the important previous work by Matsui, 2011 and 2013, and that's good news. And then I tried to apply her analysis to the data I have. So that's the section 3. And so following Keio 2006, Matsui 2011 pursued an operator analysis in which the Sonnani, the demonstrative understated, is assumed to be the alternative sensitive. So her analysis is summarized in 10, 11, and 12, and 13. So the important assumption here is that so the Sonnani, so Matsui assumed that the Sonnani requires the pragmatic enrichment operator, sigma here. And especially so for the Sonnani, this sigma operator should be interpreted as the E sub C, E sub capital C. The definition is given in 11C. So this is the scalar exhaustive operator, basically, in the sense of the Keio 2006. And so let's look at the her denotation of this demonstrative understated. 11A is the core denotation of the Sonnani phrase. And so then this one is the alternative sensitive expression. So it has the alternative as shown in 11B. And so when we combine these ingredients, what we get is the 12 and 13. So let's look at the 12 first. So this is a grammatical example, and Sonnani atsui. So this is affirmative sentence, and the Sonnani is not licensed. And how to capture the unacceptability of the 12 under Matsui's analysis. So the important part is the last one, actually, 12D. So here, because of the E sub C operator, we have the ordering relationship between the two the path in the denotation. So yeah, according to her definition, so we have the D and D prime, so both are the degrees, and the D must be lower than the D prime. So suppose that the degree D denotes that refers to the, let's say, 80 degrees, and the D prime refers to the 90 degrees. So in that case, as shown in, yeah, please look at the 14AB. So we have two propositions, let's say, and we are comparing these two guys, 14A and 14B. And in this case, the 14B is stronger than the 14A. And just like other NPI expressions, so these two propositions cannot satisfy the pragmatic requirement given in 12D. And then that's the reason why we get the unacceptability in 12A. But in contrast, when we put this demonstrative phrase in the negation, the negative sentence, そんなに熱くない, then I think you guys are familiar with this kind of the scalar inversion. So the as shown in 13D, the scalar is just reversed, And then we now compare the 15A and B. It is not hot that, I mean, here we suppose that the degree D denotes the 80 degrees. And we also have that it is not that hot in 15B. And when we compare these two propositions, of course, the 15A is stronger than the 15B, and this satisfies the pragmatic scalar, the scalar requirements given in 13D. So this sentence is fine. And so this is the basic idea of the Matsui's example, which based on the Kirke's approach to the NPL licensing. And then, so this is the licensing with negation. And regarding the licensing by the in the question, she basically assumed something like 16 ABC. So the important assumption here is given in 16C. So following the previous analysis, she assumed that here we have the quotation. It might work in the speaker's disadvantage to commit herself to the stronger proposition. So this one basically said the speaker generally try to avoid the stronger proposition, the commitment herself to the stronger proposition. And then, so if this is true, then when we compare the 16A and B, as you can see, the 16A is more general statements, proposition, and less risky than in comparison to the 16B. So according to the pragmatic preference given in 16C, the speaker should choose the more general one, right? And this can be counted as some sort of the scalar things. And then as we already, so here we have the scalar requirement for this demonstrative understater. And so the 60C satisfies this scalar requirements. So this demonstrative understater can be licensed in question. So far, so good. And I'm really happy with her analysis. But I have one data which may be problematic for her analysis. That is given in 17B. So the 17A and B are utterance by the same speaker. So the speaker A says that there is no way this painting is worth $1 million yen. And then following this statement, the same speaker said, sorry, we have two different speakers. Sorry. So the speaker A said, "There's no way this painting is worth $1 million yen." And after that, speaker B said, "No, actually it costs that much. It actually costs that much. いや、そんなにするんだよ。So there's no way this painting is worth $1 million yen. いやいやいや、そんなにするんだよ。According to my intuition, this is okay. And I mean, the demonstrative understater is licensed in this example 17B. And then, so as you can see, it may be difficult to capture the acceptability of the 17B under the Matsui's analysis because, you know, we have to satisfy the scalar requirements of the demonstrative expression. But here, I cannot come up with such the scalar relationship. In this case. So this is maybe the one potential counter example, maybe. And then I try to, and so recall that we also have the very interesting morphosyntactic property, right? So to account this example and some morphosyntactic property, I try to pursue an alternative approach to this demonstrative understater. So that's the topic in section 4. So the proposal. As you can see in the title, the proposal is kind of very simple, I think. So I propose that we have the silent match degree. And so the structure is given in 18. So yeah, So here we have head noun phrase, match, degree. So here noun phrase is actually composed of the two elements, the match and degree. And the degree demonstrative phrase, sonna, actually functions as a modifier of such silent degree denoting noun phrase. So we have the modification structure here. And then on top of that, we have the suffix ni. So under this analysis, the suffix ni is actually attached to the silent nominal, which denotes the degree. And so in this way, we can actually structurally, syntactically avoid the sequence of the na and ni. So linearly, they are just adjacent to each other, but structurally, we have some intervening the noun phrase here, right? And the suffix ni is attached to the noun phrase. So there is no problem in this case, unlike the previous example. Remember that the tokubetsu na ni is just simply ungrammatical. And so, and here I also assume that the degree demonstrative requires the noun phrase of type D. And so remember that so the match degree here, the noun phrase match degree is of type D. And the tokubetsu, the head tokubetsu, the tokubetsu na is a modifier of type ET, which means special. So it's intersectional, the typical adjective. And we have the semantic, the problem when we combined tokubetsu na and this match degree, right? So it's simply semantically impossible to combine the tokubetsu na and match degree. So we do not have the problem of the overgeneration of tokubetsu na ni. So what is crucial here is that match degree is of type D. So this is a morphosyntactic analysis. And regarding the semantics, following the SALT 2015, I assume that the match is a predicate of the set of degrees, and which also is associated with the maximality requirement given in 19. And I also assume that the denotation, the presupposition given in 20, following based on the Onias-Sayler's analysis of all that in English, I propose that degree demonstrative has the denotation in 20. And crucially, I assume that the demonstrative understater is associated with the presupposition given in 20. And the presupposition says that, so the attitude holder U believes that X does not have the property P to the match degree. So remember, I assume that the match degree, the silent degree denoting nominal, is of type D. And so the attitude holder U believes that X does not have the property P to the match degree, which is greater than the relevant standard in the context. And in addition, this demonstrative understater has another presupposition. So here the 21B, there is an individual U prime who believes that X has P to that match degree. And so since we have this presupposition, the demonstrative understater is typically used in the context. The demonstrative understater usually have some sort of the stochastic effect. So the speaker try to show the disagreement with the hearer's opinions or utterance by using this demonstrative understater. And that meaning comes from the presuppositions in 21AB. And so, regarding the unacceptability of the 22, so as you can see, the demonstrative understated cannot be licensed in affirmative sentence. So why this sentence is unacceptable? So basically, in this respect, I just follow the Onier and Saylor's analysis. So as I said, the degree demonstrative has a presupposition in 21AB. So the 22 example in 22 is unacceptable because there is a contradiction, right? The speaker cannot assert the linguistics is hard to the contextually salient degree. So this is introduced by the match degree, the silent nominal match degree, while presupposing that it is not hard to the same degree, right? The single speaker cannot have the contradict thought. So it's controversial, but I assume that the single speaker cannot have the contradictory the thought, the belief. So this is the reason why we have the unacceptability of 22. And this analysis can nicely capture the other licensing environments of the demonstrative understaters. So for example, in questions, conditionals, antecedents, and before clauses, what speakers assert is kind of independent from the presupposition introduced by the degree demonstrative. So there is no contradiction in example like 3ABC in the first page. And so regarding the 17, the degree demonstrative with nodal construction, so this is assumption, but I assume that in this case, in 17, what we have is just reversed presupposition, something like given in 23. So here, as you can see, we basically have the same template, right? So you please compare the 20 with 23. So in 20, we have the negation in the speaker's belief, right? In the first part of the speaker's belief. But in 23, instead, we have the negation in the second part of the speaker's belief. So that's the only difference. But what is in common here in these two expressions is that, so the demonstrative understated introduce the informational asymmetry. So the hearer believes something, some proposition, and by using a degree demonstrative demonstrative understated, the speaker try to express the informational asymmetry between the speakers and hearer. So that's the core meaning of the demonstrative understated under my analysis. And I think this is a good result. So we can account for maybe all licensing environments of the demonstrative understaters, including the 17, where we have the demonstrative understater in the nodal construction. So we don't have to use any scalar requirements, presuppositions, implicatures. We can, the presupposition given in 23 and 20 can yield the interpretation what we want to get. So, and then, okay, 27 minutes. And then, so in the next section, yeah, actually this section is made for my reviewers. I mean, my reviewers give me a comment which says it is nice if you have some analysis regarding the question why we have that. I mean, in Japanese we have sono, and why other demonstrative in Japanese like kono, ano cannot be used as the understaters. So that's a very interesting question. And in this section, I try to think about the reason why we have that, not this. Okay, so let's think about the English example first. As I mentioned, I basically follows the Onier and Saylor's analysis of all that in English, and as shown in 24AB. So again, so this all that expression is an NPI. And what is interesting here is that so the all that expression requires that, not this. So the rope is not all this long, does not have any understated flavor, right? So why that, not this? And when we think about the Japanese, the distribution is a bit more complicated. So in Japanese, as shown in 25, we have basically three series of the demonstratives: proximal, medial, distal. The proximal call series, so こんな、この、これ、こいつ、こちら。And medial so series, そんな、その、それ、そいつ、そちら。And distal a series, あんな、あの、あれ、あいつ、あちら。And as shown in 26 and 27, when we use the call series and R series instead of the so series, the degree demonstrative phrase basically cannot be interpreted as understated. So 26AB is an example of the call series. So instead of そんな, we have こんな。言語学はこんなに難しい。So first of all, this sentence is acceptable, right? When we use the そんな, the sentence becomes ungrammatical. But with こんな, the sentence is just fine. And this expression is also fine with the negation, that is a 27B, 26B. So this is a call series. And in 27AB, we have the R series. And we have slightly different meanings here. But what is important is that, so in contrast to the so series, these expressions are not counted as understated. So going back to the original question, so why that, not this? In Japanese, let's say, why so series, but not call series and R series? So that's a question. And so here, in this respect, I think the semantic nature of these Japanese demonstratives is, the relevant to the understated usage. So in 28, we have the basic meaning of the Japanese demonstrative. So here, so as you can see in 28A, the A series basically can be used if it is presupposed that both speaker and hearer are acquainted with the referent. So which means when we use the R series, the demonstrative of R series is, we have some presupposition or implicature presupposition that's the presupposition of the equality of information. So the speaker and hearer basically have the same amount of the information, let's say. And regarding the so series, we have 28B. So which says the so series can be used only if it is not presupposed that both speaker and hearer are acquainted with the referent. So this is anti-equality of information. So the so series requires that there is no presupposition such that both speaker and hearer are acquainted with the referent. And lastly, we have the call series in 28. So here, the call series can be used only if it is presupposed that the speaker is acquainted with the referent and hearer is not. So we have the asymmetry of information. And 29 is the core idea, core meaning of the demonstrative that and this. So basically here, again, we have the no presupposition of information. So that does not have the presupposition regarding the information, like similarly to the so series. In contrast, the demonstrative this in English have the asymmetry of the information. So that's the important part. And so please look at the table in 13.2. So what we have here is that, so if a given demonstrative has the speaker hearer asymmetry, the informational asymmetry, then that demonstrative cannot be used as understated. So in English, the demonstrative this have the speaker hearer asymmetry according to the Osima and McLeary 2017, and this demonstrative cannot be used understated. And in Japanese, ko and so in Japanese we have a little bit complicated picture. So as I said in as shown in 28, the ko series imply the presuppose the asymmetry of the information. So so it is expected that this ko series behaves like the demonstrative this in English. So that's fine. But the R series is a bit more complicated. So R series presupposes that there is no asymmetry between the speaker and the hearer regarding the information. And this, I assume that this presupposition is basically incompatible with the presupposition introduced by the demonstrative understater. So as I explained in the previous page of this handout, I propose that the core function of the demonstrative understater is introduce the informational asymmetry in the conversation. So the hearer believes something, but the speaker tried to show his or her disagreement with the speaker, with the hearer. So that's the core meaning of the demonstrative understater. And then this property of the understater is incompatible with the presupposition of the R series. So I assume that I suggest that this is the reason why we cannot use the R series as an understater. But so on the other hand, when we think about the English demonstrative that and so series in Japanese, so these two guys do not have any speaker-hearer asymmetry regarding the information. I mean, so the important things here is the lack of the presupposition, the special type of the presupposition regarding the information. And these demonstrative can be used as understater. And I think this pattern, the cross-linguistic pattern, I mean, the pattern in Japanese and English is very important. So the prediction here is that, so if in a given language, the given demonstrative can, so the given demonstrative does not have any speaker-hearer asymmetry, then it is expected that those demonstratives can be used as understater in that language. Maybe the story is not that simple, but this is the one potential expectation, the prediction under my analysis. And yeah, and let me see. Okay, so yeah, and there's another correlation between the possibility, availability of the understater usage and bound variable interpretation. So as shown in 30 and 31, we have the contrast between the among the demonstratives regarding the availability of the bound variable interpretation. So in Japanese, only the so series, the demonstrative of the so series, can function as a bound pronoun. So 30A can receive the bound variable interpretation. So every university prays that university students. That's okay under the bound variable interpretation. But in contrast, when we look at the 13B and C, so 13B is with the co series and 13C is with R series. So in these sentences, the sentence itself is fine, but we don't have any bound variable interpretation. So that's the contrast. And when we go back to the English case, so as you can see in 31A and B, so that, the demonstrative that can function as bound pronoun. But in contrast, the demonstrative this cannot. Yeah, so again, so the 32 is just a summary table. And we have the, the systematic pattern here. And so this is kind of stipulation, but I try to connect the availability of the bound variable interpretation with the availability of the understater usage. So under my analysis, remember that, so degree denoting nominal, I mean the match degree, is context sensitive, highly context sensitive. And maybe this is related to some anaphoric property of the demonstrative. So the only demonstratives which can have the property of being context sensitive and which has the anaphoric property, only those demonstrative can function as understater. Because to get the understater meaning, we have to have access to the context. So what speaker believes and what hearer believes. And this is an important aspect of the meaning of the degree demonstrative understater. And maybe, so I understand I need more concrete the denotation or the tools to implement this idea, but the core intuition here is this, and given in the table in 13.2. And in this connection, I have one interesting example from Welsh, given in 13.4. So far, I just focused on the demonstratives like this, that, so, and co. But when we look at the Welsh example as shown in 13.4, in this language, instead of the demonstrative, we have the article some. So some much here functioned as the degree demonstrative understater. So the translation of the 13.4 is I didn't learn all that much at evening classes. And then, so unfortunately, I don't have the consultant of the Welsh, and I should check the bound variable interpretations or speaker hearer asymmetries with this sum. But it looks like this sum, the particle sum, can introduce the anaphoric properties, just like English that. And if that's true, then again, so the Welsh data again can be counted as a support for my analysis. So the demonstratives or articles which do not have the speaker hearer asymmetry and which can function as a bound variable can be used as understaters. So the next step I should take is like checking the typological data based on the table given in 13.2. Okay, 41 minutes. And so I already show you guys the important part of my project. And the section 6 is, again, is for the my reviewers. So my reviewers pointed out that, so it may be nice if we have the overt counterpart of the silent degree denoting nominals. So I propose that we have match degree, but is there any other overt counterpart of this nominal expression? And I try to think about such nominal expressions. And the first candidate here is given in 36 and 37. そんな程度に. So 程度means the degree or extent, and which actually appear between the sonna phrase and the particle ni, right? So it looks like this guy is a very nice candidate for the overt counterpart of the match degree. But when we look at the examples given in 36b and 37b, unfortunately, this expression そんな程度に behaves differently from the そんなに phrase. And so crucially, as shown in 13.6b, this そんな程度に expression is fine in affirmative sentence. So here, so here 13.6a and b is uttered by the same speaker. So the speaker A said that you need to study for at least a year. 言語学はそんな程度に難しい。So you need to study for at least a year. Linguistics is that hard. So that's the intended meaning here, and that's fine. So this pattern, the acceptability of the 36b is not expected if this そんな程度に is an overt counterpart of the demonstrative understater. And so the 37b basically show the same point. So given this, maybe there is a way to make a difference between the overt counterpart and the covert match degree. Maybe some syntactic approach is fine, or semantics. So we can just put some semantic requirements in the overt counterpart of match degree. But for now, I don't come up with any good idea to deal with this difference. So I suggest that the match degree, so that Teido is not the overt counterpart of the silent nominal match degree. And the second candidate for the overt counterpart of the match degree is the Hodo. So we have the Sore Hodo in 39 and 40. And this expression is nice because we have the contrast in 39AB. So the Sore Hodo ni, so Sore is the Soul series demonstrative, and we have Hodo and particle ni. And so as you can see, so this expression is unacceptable in affirmative sentences, but it's okay with the sentential negation as shown in 39B. So this looks like very, similar to the what we have for sonnani, right? But again, here we have the difference between sore hodo and the sonnani phrase. As shown in 40, we can additionally overtly realize the materials made with this それほどに expression. So I can say 言語学はそれほどまでに難しくない。So this is fine, but this まで phrase until cannot appear in the そんなに demonstratives. So the 14b is ungrammatical, unacceptable. 言語学はそんなまでに難しくない。So this is completely unacceptable. And given this contrast between the そんなに and それほどに, it seems difficult to treat the hodo as a overt counterpart of the match degree. And so in syntax, for example, Kane has a bunch of the silent nominals, but he always emphasized that when we have the silent nominals, we should have the overt counterpart of that silent nominals. And that's the cross-linguistic pattern we have in syntax. Given that, it is expected that I should have some overt counterpart of this match degree, but for now, I haven't found that kind of overt expression. So I have to leave this issue for future research. And it's time, so I would like to enjoy the discussion with you guys, audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have time for questions. So let's see, we have, okay, then Christy, you have the question.
I went first last time. Maybe I'll defer to some other people, and then if there's time, come back to me. Yeah, like maybe Marcin, I can see his hand is up.
Okay, Marcin, you're first.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Yuta. It was very interesting, very nice. So I have a question related to the last section, maybe question, or maybe a suggestion. So I was thinking about so when you have groundable predicates such as tall, right? So you assume that there is some kind of standard, and you refer to that standard in a way, and it's usually somehow contextually defined. So when you say John is tall, then it usually means that relative to some some standard. But you can also, what you can also do is you can fill that standard or set that standard overtly. So you could say John is tall as for a child, for example, right? And I was wondering to what extent this match degree behaves in a similar way, and maybe so I was trying to come up with examples that would work but I sort of failed. But maybe that would be something, if you could do that, maybe that would be something that would help you, it's like to argue for some, at least some overt component that maybe it's maybe not much degrees, as can be overtly realized as such, but maybe there is some component that can, just like target a part of the meaning of this much degree. So that's my. So have you thought about it?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I haven't thought that the way of the way of analyzing the data, and it's very interesting. Yeah. So yeah, your point is that maybe I can target each part of the semantic denotation and realizing those parts as arbitrary, linguistically arbitrary.
Yeah, exactly.
Regarding the standard one, I mean the like as a child, that kind of expression can co-occur with the demonstrative understater, I think. So the linguistics is not that hard as a natural science. That the Japanese counterpart of that sentence is fine. And John is not that tall as a child.
Yeah. So if you can do that, then I think it works nicely for your account, and you can actually use that to argue that, that you need some, something like a much degree in the structure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That way of the testing the data and the prediction is very interesting. And yeah, I should think about the denotation in that way. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks a lot once again.
Okay, Chris, you're up now. I'm sorry, Jan is up, then Chris.
No. I just wanted to stand in the queue. Now it was Chris who was first, actually.
Sorry, I messed up the whole idea of a queue by trying to be polite or something. I'll never be polite again. Okay, here's my question. It's about the noda, the interpretation of sonnani in the noda sentences. So your example is in 17, and then I repeated in 23, or rather 20. The semantics is in 23. So my question is, your intuition or your explanation is basically that you have this presupposition about an informational asymmetry. It's by default that the case that the negated belief, as it was, is anchored to the speaker, and then there's an existentially quantified other individual, in these cases somehow linked to this addressee maybe, that has the opposite, and you like switch the polarity basically, right? So there's two questions. One is that, it raises the question, what's the mechanism of that? Like how does that happen? And then a more kind of empirical question / comment is that you're attributing that flip and that interpretation to noda, in particular that there's an asymmetry between the speaker and the addressee in terms of their beliefs. But that's at least partly, I think, due to the yo. And in particular, if we change your example to say something like, そんなにするんだね, or そんなにするんだ, like or, 日本語って、そんなに難しいんだ. So you delete yo, and you either put nothing, maybe some special intonation, or ne. And I believe the interpretation is something like, up until now, the speaker had not thought that the thing was so expensive, the Japanese was so difficult, that it was so hot, or whatever. And then there's a contextually salient piece of evidence, or it's a kind of mirative sentence, right? It's like, I'm surprised to find out that it is in fact that, adjective. And so it seems to me that it's still correct that there's an asymmetry, but it's like asymmetry in the belief states of the speaker at different stages, like right now versus just a moment ago, or something like that. So sorry, it was a long comment / question, but I feel like that's the place where I'm not quite sure how the pieces are going to fit together. I just want to, any thoughts about that? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Yes. And I got surprised that you have very clear intuition about Japanese data. You have clear intuition than me, so that's good. And I basically agree with you. I mean, your judgment. So with without the sentence final particle, yeah, what we have is actually the interpretation as you mentioned. So yeah. And so, yeah, I have to think about the, the semantic analysis of the nodal sentence, which may affect the informational asymmetry introduced by the demonstrative understater. And maybe it's related to the focus or something. I am not sure, but yeah, please give me a time to think about that. Yeah, that's very interesting point. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so my question is actually related to what Chris said. The 17, the sentence, いや、そんなに、するんだ. Yeah, I also thought that the speaker, when he has just realized that the price is that high unexpectedly. I mean, you can say that. So so it seems like there might be a problem in the presupposition, because in the presupposition you have, so basically the speaker believes that something is not a case, but actually he has just realized that it's a case. So also the other thing that I want to say is that you have this part following that there's someone else who has a belief that is different from the speakers. But I don't know why you have to have this part, because I mean all your examples are basically conversational, so maybe it makes sense. But when you're maybe you're reading a book that introduces a lot of pictures, like painting or something, and you found some particular painting and you didn't think it was very expensive, but then you found that it was very expensive because after reading the book, then you could say, oh, そんなにするんだ. That was, this painting was that expensive. And in this case, you just didn't believe that it was so expensive, and there's nobody else involved other than yourself, right? In this case, so there's no, I think only your belief that seems to matter here. That was my comment.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, and that's very important part, and I intentionally skip. That's very interesting part, but I don't have the good tools to analyze that data. So your point is that this demonstrative understater can be used when we are comparing the belief of the single speaker. So at some time, speaker believes, let's say, proposition A, then after that, in the timeline, the speaker suddenly realized that the previous belief is wrong or something like that. And then in that case, you can use the demonstrative understater, right? That's your example. And that's very interesting case. And actually one of my speakers suggests that maybe I can include the time variable, the time intervals in this denotation. And so far I just compare the belief in terms of the proposition without putting the time intervals or events arguments or something like that. But maybe your example can be dealt with the time intervals variables or scales between the two events or time intervals. And I have to think about that very carefully. And thank you so much.
You're officially at time, but we also spent about 4 minutes trying to fiddle with things and get up to questions. And Jan has a question he's been waiting to ask. We'll make this the last question.
Okay, it's gonna be rather a comment than a real question. So thank you, that this was really interesting. And I was just, I would like just to suggest that you could get much more in arguing for your tree in 18 by comparing the structure with Sorehodo. Because the reason is that you have like two parts that are at least not self-evident, which is the nominal part and the degree part. And you will find all of these in a different distribution in Sorehodo, because you have the nominal part, which is Sore, and you have the degree part, which is Hodo. And I have no clear picture in my mind, but in a sense, this hodo looks like a thing that spells out your match degree plus me, right? Like you can say, like, I don't know, Ikitai hodo omoshiroku nai. It's not interesting to the extent that I would like to go, right? And so this looks like spelling out this NP plus ni. And on the other hand, you have the nominal part in sore. Sore itself, it's nominal, right? Whatever we like projection to have. So I think to repeat, I don't have a clear picture in my mind, but I think you could get match by comparing those two structures. Even if we don't have a unified account, these two could like support each other. That's what I think could like facilitate your proposal, which is very interesting to me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's also another very interesting point. The structure, yes, the matters. So, and I'm thinking that issue from cross-linguistic perspectives. So in the recent book edited by the Malki, the Sinfonia book, we have the one chapter about the match in Greek. And in Greek, we have poly. I'm not sure the pronunciation, P-O-L-Y, poly. And this match expression can appear in the sentence alone. And in addition to that, this poly can form a compound with some verbal predicates. And we have the clear contrast regarding the NPI behaviors between such morphological compound poly and poly which can stand alone. So in that way, cross-linguistically, we have some contrast regarding the NPI behaviors, which may be based on some structural relationship. So sore hodo, as you mentioned, appear with the sore, the independent pronouns, right? But the sono, sonna, ni, the son part is, the morphologically, it's not free variable, free morpheme, right? So that's the one issues, and I have to think about that more. Yeah. Thank you for the comment.
Yeah, I think I close this. I don't want to push it too long. I think that this son, it looks to me like a root, but an uncategorized thing. And then sore comes up as something more substantial, so it could like facilitate. But okay, thanks. I don't want to take too much time.
Okay, I think we're going to stop there and move on to our next talk. So thank you very much.